Good morning and welcome back to Spidz YouTube. Today's going to be a little bit of a different video, so I want to, at the very start, quickly break down what the format is so you know how you want to consume this sort of media. Instead of being a regular VOD review thing, which is pretty much all that Spidz YouTube is, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I wanted to do a recap of the year. I wanted to talk about Worlds, I want to talk about this year, I want to talk about Spidz YouTube, I want to talk about tournaments, I want to give some shout-outs, I want to open up the Riot Box that they gave me a couple of weeks ago during Worlds. There's a few things I want to do, and I'm going to put it all into this thing as a sort of recap for the end of the year. So, on your screen, you'll probably have me in the corner. I'm not entirely sure, but you're possibly gonna have me in the corner, and they're gonna have ladder gameplay of me playing mostly Morgana decks. I'm pretty sure. I really like Morgana as a champion, and so you'll see some gameplay there. They're mostly some very interesting ladder games. Depending on how long this video ends up being, there'll be some uninteresting games as well. But I wanted to make sure there would be something visual, just in case you're down bad for visual content of LoR gameplay. You can see me do a couple of ladder games. Some of them are really interesting. I might put in the description the timestamps for the more interesting games in case you're really down bad for LoR gameplay, but there's so much LoR gameplay you can find on the internet where people actually are talking about the gameplay. You're not going to get that here. It's just going to be me in the corner doing a little bit of a podcast style with gameplay in the background that's mostly relevant. So if you wanted to just turn off the video entirely and just listen to me, put me at a faster speed probably as well, so be it. You can do that. That's fine. This is mostly a podcast-esque thing. So let's talk about a few things. At the bottom, there might be a chapter mechanic, but I don't know how useful it will be considering I expect to talk slightly non-linearly and go back and forth and be tangential. I've got a list of dot points of things that I do want to talk about, but by the way, I just realized one of my dot points is already wrong. I wrote down the wrong thing. So there will be some things that I know I want to talk about, but I might end up rambling about a bunch of random things. I'm uncertain as of now. So, I want to start by talking about Worlds. Worlds was last week, and it was very exciting. For me, LoR is the first esport I've ever had any interest in. With sports, I only care about one physical sport, and that's Australian football, aka AFL. aka AFL. I like that sport a lot, but I have never really had interest in watching competitive esports, right? I don't watch StarCraft. I only started playing League of Legends after Legends of Runeterra, so I had no interest in that. I never watched Dota or anything like that. And while I have played games to a level that is probably slightly more than casual, I've tried playing games somewhat competitively in the settings, in the systems within the game, right? Never doing grassroots tournaments until LoR. LoR is the first game where I paid attention to the esports, and I still have a vivid memory of watching the first an American Open, or American Seasonal for Legends of Runeterra, the one that Pushpi won with Darius Sejuani overwhelms with that was Monuments of Power, that seasonal. I have lots of good memories of that, and that was the first esport I'd ever watched. I maybe have seen gameplay from other esports and backgrounds of YouTube videos or something, right? But that was the first esport I ever watched, and since then I've been following competitive LoR for quite a while. And Worlds 2021 and Worlds 2022 were absolutely phenomenal experiences as a spectator, right? As someone that's never watched esports that much before then, it was incredibly hype. Now, I watched Worlds 2021 mostly on my own. I wasn't part of any communities during 2021, from my memory at least. I think I've got my timeline right. My memory's not great, but from memory, I just watched it alone or with my boyfriend, and that was a good time. But 2022, obviously, when it was in person, I was watching it with the rest of everyone else as a community, hanging around the Fake Hero Discord server quite a bit, all these sorts of things. And it was a good time, and I was very much expecting and willing to be watching 2023 as a spectator, right? I thought, hey, that's fine, and I love watching LoR tournaments, or at least the competitive ones. I don't really watch a lot of grassroots tournaments. I think I watch some Aegis, and that's it. But I really did like watching the American seasonals as well as Worlds, and so going into this year, I was sort of expecting that to be the case. Obviously, as most of you probably know, I did end up being able to cast Worlds, which was a very interesting experience. And the path I got to that still sort of shocks me, because at the start of this year, I'd casted exactly one thing before, and that was the second OS Invitational at the end of last year. That's the only thing I'd casted by the start of this year. Aegis sent out a form if you wanted to be a producer or a caster, and I said, oh, why not put my name down? What's the worst that could happen? They say no, big deal. And ended up saying yes, and so I casted a few weeks of Aegis, And Gregory the Grey was the production guy for the... Oh, see? I think he was one of the production guys for the OS Invitational #2 as well as Fake Hero. And Greg also hangs out a lot in Fake Hero server, and, you know, we're sort of decent, you know, friends. We're acquaintances, and the same with a lot of, like, you know, LoR friends or acquaintances. You hang out together and have fun in voice chats, and, you know, you're friendly with each other. And when it came to one of the Mastering Runeterra opens, Greg would often message me saying, hey, do you want to cast this? And I'd be like, you know, I can, but it's also like 2 a.m. till 8 a.m. Am I really going to do this? One time I ended up saying yes to this. It was the one in July. That was the Siren Song seasonal. But we did the Mastering Runeterra open for that. And that was like the biggest thing I had casted at the time was that Mastering Runeterra open with Boulevard. And that was the one where Donut did quite well. I want to say Frostbooty Aurelia came second. It was one of the first times Poro King ended up doing really well. I think it was that. And I want to say Tank won, but I'm not in... That might be false. Tank might not have won. Tank might have won the one in the season after. Anyway, from that, I think... Because Florent runs the opens, or runs the Mastering Runeterra opens. Mastering Runeterra was doing the real opens, like the Heart of the Huntress opens for that season, and asked if I wanted to do the APAC broadcast, and I was like, hell yeah, what the hell? This is fucking exciting. Like, I never, ever would have expected to be on a Riot broadcast, ever. Like, that never even popped into my mind, really, as a possibility. And then Florent gave me the opportunity to do it for APAC, and I jumped at it. And this was a time when Roma was here in Melbourne. He lives abroad. And so he was actually here, and I was like, sorry, Roma, you know, I'm going to stay up all night and be doing this broadcast. He slept through it. I don't know if he was here for the APEC broadcast, but he was here for the Mastering Runeterra one. He slept through it somehow. I don't know how he does it. But anyway, I had done the APEC broadcast, and that went rather well. I think I did that with Moonboy Gaming. He's very good to do a broadcast with, especially for one of your first times doing it on an official thing, because he's very good at being humorous and hosting. Anyway. From that, you know, Aegis did the ones for Fate's Voyage Onward, and they got me to do the APAC one again, and I felt very, very honored. And when they asked if I wanted to do Worlds, I was sort of surprised, right? In my mind, the idea of being able to do, like, the Worlds broadcast, like, the biggest thing for the end of the year, seemed like something that I definitely did not have the qualifications for. Like, in my mind, my CV for casting or whatever is extremely minimal, right? I have done... You know, I think the World's broadcast was like my 12th time ever doing a broadcast, and that includes one of the 5v5s where Monty and I sort of made a mockery of the whole thing and was like extremely unprofessional. And, you know, 3 of them were Aegis weeks, one of them was the OS Invitational. I hadn't casted very much, but I felt very lucky that Aegis ended up deciding to use me for the broadcast for Worlds. And going into it, right, going into the Worlds broadcast, I definitely felt not like I was fully amateur, but among people like Boulevard and Necra and Skarzig who have done a lot of casting in the past, I definitely felt like I was a little bit out of place during all of this. But they definitely helped in making me feel like I belonged there, if that makes sense. They did a good job of making sure that I was calm and ready and comfortable for the broadcast. They did a great job in trying to make sure that I felt okay with it. But going into Worlds, it was so weird to go from someone that was like... primarily a player and a viewer to being able to cast. Now, I had known for at least a little bit of time that I would be casting Worlds. Not a lot of time, but, you know, it's not like I learnt like the week before Worlds happened, right? There was a little bit of advanced timing, which meant I didn't put a lot of effort into tournaments in like the latter half or the latter quarter of the year. For I had been, you know, realizing that like if I play in the LCQ and get first, and then I'm like, nah, I'm going to be casting Worlds, I think that would have been a little bit weird, so I didn't put too much effort into a lot of these. I did play in the LCQ, but I woke up so late that I only got enough time to do like 5 rounds or 6 rounds before I had to stop, because I had to cast the APAC LCQ immediately right after. Right. Anyway. I want to talk about the Worlds broadcast a little bit, at least from my perspective, because obviously I don't get to have the same feeling as the viewers that watch it, right? There's a little bit more stress to make sure that I'm, you know, articulating things properly and putting on somewhat of like an entertaining or analytical show, right? And that's very different from being a viewer. And another thing is that, like, as a viewer, at the end of the day, like a week out from the broadcast, most of what you remember are going to be the games and the decks and Helpinator who won, right? You're not going to be really thinking about who casted what game and, you know, the comments that they made or whatever. But from my perspective, what the most I can do to provide something as a caster is try to improve or exacerbate, there's a word I'm looking for here, but add on to what the players and the decks and the gameplay is showing you, right? Try and make that experience even more enjoyable, right? That being said, there can be troubles in this. So I know that, like, the cast was, I think the broadcast was in general really, really good. There were some technical mishaps, and I don't think that's uncommon for LoR broadcast. That's pretty common, and I don't want to harp on it too much because I think it's sort of not what should be remembered from the broadcast, but there were some technological mishaps, right? There were times when a lot of us, like one or two of us, was muted. There were times where the imagery goes a bit wrong. And I want to, like, point out that, like, from my speech or whatever I'm saying to your audio being able to listen to it, there are so many individual different points of failure, more than you could possibly imagine, right? There are so many different areas where there could be an issue, right? Whether it's my microphone, whether it's my Wi-Fi, whether it's, you know, the device, the thing that's recording my microphone, right? Like my laptop, whether it's the website that gives my microphone audio to the production team. And then there's a million things from the production team side that goes from them receiving my stuff to putting it onto the broadcast in the proper ways, right? And that's just audio. If you imagine visuals, it gets even harder. So I don't think the production guys did a bad job at all for what is like a really, really demanding thing to be doing. They did an absolutely phenomenal job in what is a really, really heartfelt group of people that do this, right? Like the amount of effort and care they put into things like the little trackers on the side that show, you know, the amount of cards in the deck, like the way that they have to do that is very, very cool. I'm not going to be like, you know, giving all the secrets about how all these things work because it doesn't really matter. But I think that, you know, it's easy to point out when a professional or a professional appearing broadcast doesn't have a fantastic, you know, it's not 24/7 perfect, but they do a really damn good job at it. And I wanted to give like a massive shout out to the production team for that. The casting crew was really, really good. I know that a lot of people have opinions on some of the casters and how well they do. For example, Necra isn't like she doesn't play a LoR like very, very often, but that's not really her role. And I think Necra does a really, really, really good job at being a host. I think when you're watching a broadcast, it's hard to identify like sometimes what's the point of a person like Necra. But I think it's really cool to be able to say, hey, this person will always be able to be the obvious pin that can take you between certain areas, right? Like, you know, Necra always introduces the broadcast saying, you know, welcome back, we're at XYZ. And that's like a great position to always have the same person doing consistently from a viewer's perspective and from our side, right? Like if all of what she had to do was put onto us, that would give us a lot more stress in making sure we're supposed to hit the right things. So I think, like, I really appreciate a position that Necra has, and she also made a lot of good feedback and suggestions on how to do the broadcast to make it a lot more fluent, right? There are a lot of things in the background that she did that were really, really good. I also want to shout out Boulevard. He's given me quite a few tips on how to do casting better, right? I don't think I'm an amazing caster, right? I still feel really amateur. I don't do the best job of flowing with the people that I'm with a lot of the time. I and ah a lot, and I don't think I embellish the hyper moments as much as I would like to, because often, like, the play before a hype moment, where you're setting up for that hype moment, involves a really interesting play, whether it's, like, doing a Portapalooza on a certain turn, so you're setting up tempo for future turns and what have you, as a very basic example. And I get very interested in talking about those, and it ends up making it such that I don't think I embellish the hype moments enough, but I've been trying to work on that, right? I'm trying to make sure that when I'm casting, it's not the same as me doing a Spidz YouTube VOD review and analyzing the plays as analytically as possible, but making sure that it's just an enjoyable experience, because fundamentally, right, when it comes to things like LoR or gaming or casting or whatever, there's like a goal that a lot of us think should be the main goal, but as always, the main goal for everything is like fun when it comes to an entertainment product, right? So with a video game, right, we can talk about how the goal of LoR should be to make interesting new cards or better balance patches or new, you know, game modes. But all of those have to be for the aim of making sure that the product is fun, right? If LoR isn't fun, it doesn't matter how good the fucking like balance releases or whatever, or new set releases are. You have to make sure that they're fun. Now, obviously, we know that like one of the best ways to create fun is to make sure that this already good, engaging foundation of a game is embellished with good expansions, right? And so when expansions are bad, we can say, hey, this game is less fun right now because Heart of the Huntress didn't work out that well. While when the expansion is good, like Fate's Voyage Beyond or Fate's Voyage Onward or Glory Novori, we can be like, hey, this was a really good job. You know, you made the expansion fun, and this is an enjoyable experience. The same goes for the broadcast, where I think for a lot of competitive players, they're like, I know what I want most from a broadcast, and it's that when I watch it, I want the, you know, the plays to be interesting and the matchups to be interesting, but also for the explanation and the casting of that to be analytically dense and to be something that I feel like I get reward out of listening and watching to. And while I think that's like a good point, I think you also have to make sure that like when there's something hype on the screen, you want to make sure that you're actually embellishing that and being like, holy shit, you know, Captain Calyrex from the Portal Palooza, you can use your Elixir of Wrath to make you go for lethal or whatever nonsense that ends up being the exciting moment, right? Anyway, I feel like that's something that I don't have a great hold on making sure I'm doing that properly, but I think a lot of other like established casters like Boulevard and Skarsig do quite well. I think that's also like a lot of the appeal of Alan, right? Alan's really good at the analysis part of decks that he quite likes, right? Like when he's watching Karma set and these sorts of things. He's very good at making sure that analysis comes down, which means he's beloved by a lot of the competitive players for that capacity to be able to do that on the broadcast. Anyway, I do think that sorry, I got sidetracked into my own thing. I want to say that Boulevard has done a great job of telling me where areas I can improve, right? He's been doing casting for many, many years, so he obviously knows a lot of places where players can improve, or sorry, casters can improve. Boulevard has mentioned on, I think, the Mastering Runeterra podcast that he doesn't really like casting with players. He prefers casting with like established casters because the way that a player and a caster go about casting is very, very different. And you can like take massive difference between like if you watch Boulevard cast for 20 minutes and you watch someone like Card Gamer and Hash do like the Aegis casts for 20 minutes, you can see a stark difference in how they approach casting. And it's not like one is better than the other necessarily. They're both trying to create a different product for a consumer. But I think it's a good point to make that while I respect Boulevard's casting a lot, and I think Boulevard does a really, really good job of it, and I'm appreciative that Boulevard consistently has given me advice, right? I think I've asked him twice for major pieces of advice, and he's consistently given it to me. And I really appreciate that. So I wanted to give a shout out to Boulevard really quickly. And he does his own stuff on YouTube, like the Tournament Tacticians and the skits that are really freaking good. Anyway. I think at the end of the day, I'm really proud with how Worlds went. I don't think I did a perfect job, but I think that's sort of a farcical locus of analysis, right? I don't think it's worth it for me to say, you know, if it's not perfect, it was a bad time. I could do better, right? I think that while some of the, like, I'm really proud of some of the casting I did. I think Boulevard and I, because I've done casting with him for quite a while, at least from my perspective and my feeling, I think we've got a good flow. Maybe Boulevard disagrees, but I personally think that the way that Boulevard and I do casting has worked out quite well. But this is my first time casting with Skarsig and Alan. I'd never done that before, so I was like still learning my sea legs on how to work it with them. I think day two. On day two, I got like 4 hours of sleep the night before. I was just really, really struggling to get to sleep. And I think I did like my worst casting on day two. I think day two, I just like absolutely shit the bed. And then I told people, hey, you know, I think I did badly. And they're like, oh, I didn't notice a difference. And that kind of hurt. Because I thought it was like stark how bad I did on day two compared to day one and day three. But it turns out that it's the same. Which I think says more about my day one and day threes than my day twos. But I think I still feel like I'm learning and I'm improving every single time I cast. I think that in general, everyone at production and the casting team did a really good job with the experience. And I think there was a lot of good responses to Worlds, right? I think you can't necessarily, like, please everyone. There's going to be some people that say, like, oh, we want more Alan or we want less Alan. You know, there'll be people that say, hey, you know, production, you did this one thing wrong. This is the worst production team ever. How can you get this simple thing wrong when in reality it's really fucking hard to do? But I think at the end of the day, there are a few goals of what Worlds is trying to do, right? One thing Worlds does is, like, continue... Like, there's so many things that Worlds does for Riot, right? One is to continue putting forward the idea that Riot leads esports, right? And I know that's mostly through Valorant and through League of Legends and slightly through Teamfight Tactics, but having, like, LoR be consistently making Worlds, I think, is relatively important for that sort of model. I think in terms of the LoR community, it's trying to build up further towards the game, right? At the end of 2022... or during the mid of 2022, there was a lot of negativity regarding the future of LoR, especially competitively. We had just come out of the whole, you know, we're focusing on POC, we're focused on, the Path of Champions, and we're focusing on ranked, you know, back and forth, and the seasonals, while they were all right, hadn't been amazing, and every seasonal kept having at least one issue. Like, sometimes round 3 wouldn't work, sometimes APAC would just be fucked, right? These sorts of things. And I think before Worlds 2022 happened, there was a lot of, you know, passive negativity about LoR, at least in the social media circles, right? Reddit, Twitter, Discord. And then World 2022 happened, and it was, production was in person, and casts and the on-camera crew were in person. Everyone was like, holy shit, this is so cool. I love LoR. It's got the best future ever. And then, you know, 3 months later, we have the announcement of the new system with opens and gauntlets. And there was a lot of positive fervor towards LoR's future. And I feel like there is a similar, although slightly more muted vibe this time around, where there's a lot of, you know, positive things. That Worlds was a really good experience and people quite liked it, right? I don't think it's as prominent as the 2022 one was, but I think, like, one of the goals for Worlds is to have this cultural moment that a lot of the LoR community can look forward to over the course of the year and then enjoy when it happens at the point in the year that it does. And I want to say that Worlds 2023 did accomplish that to a relatively good extent. I think the expansion going into Worlds was really, really good, and I think it was a good expansion to have. I think, you know, the play for a lot of it was really, really nice. We're really lucky that Talpinator was on screen a lot, and Talpinator's decks were very interesting, right? Like, in the day 3, like, Talpinator was more than 50% of the show or whatever at that point, because you watched his whole thing from the lower bracket to the top. Yeah, that's mostly what I wanted to talk about with Worlds. I think it was a really good experience, and I'm really glad I had it. I think the production and the casting crew were really, really good, and I wanted to thank a lot of them for making that experience really, really positive. And looking forward towards next year, I don't expect that I'll be doing Worlds next year or anything. I have no sort of preconceived notions of what my future in terms of LoR and casting looks like. It's this sort of thing that I've sort of fell into, and I'm willing to continue sort of participating in, but it's not something that I have, you know, it's not like at the start of this year I said I want to be able to cast a Riot Open, right? It's something that I just sort of applied to things when, you know, they were offered to me, and I managed to get really lucky in how it's come through. And I wanted to give a massive thanks to both Aegis and to Greg for giving me opportunities to be able to do casting, right? I'm not perfect at it, there's a lot I can improve on, but I'm enjoying working on it as I am, but I don't have any sort of, like, you know, I've done Worlds, I'll be doing Worlds again next year. I'd like to. If I'm offered to do Worlds again next year, I almost certainly will accept it. I think it was a really good opportunity this year, and I almost certainly want to do it next year if I get the opportunity, but I'm under no sort of false assumption that I'll be able to guarantee that or anything. I hope I still get to do the APAC WQOs. They fit really well into my schedule because I still like competing, right? Obviously, we're talking about casting right now. In a bit, we're going to talk about competing. And, like, playing LoR is part of the reason why I like it so much, right? Like, I'm a big fan of LoR, the video game. And the fact that I get to participate in the Americas tournaments, but also cast the APAC ones, is a very comfy place for me to be able to be in. I would like to cast America at some point, because I know a lot more about American players than I do about APAC players, just by nature of having hung out with a lot of American players for most of the community that I interact with. But it's working out quite well for me, the sort of APAC WQOs and LCQ, and being able to play in the Americas ones. But yeah, I wanted to talk about that. I think this year has been very interesting for me for casting. You know, a lot of new stuff has happened in that sort of space, and I feel very lucky and also very excited to continue doing it if I am able to continue doing it. But if not, you know, maybe like 7 APAC casters spawn in the next couple of days and they're like phenomenal and they end up, you know, taking over the Spidz slot, then so be it, right? If they're good, they're good. Yeah, that's all I want to talk about regarding Worlds, I think. I want to talk about this year in terms of LoR in general. This year has been very different to previous years. Instead of having seasonals, we had opens, and the release format is completely different, right? Now it's very starkly like 3 champions and expansion plus the variety set plus the balance that's very, very consistent in the middle. And I think the release schedule format works quite well. I don't mind like the 3 champions plus variety cards, and then 2 months later you get the 10 variety cards, and between those two you get the balance change. I think it does rely on the head of the expansion to be quite good, and when that has been a fail, a lot of people have been negative about it. I've mentioned this a few times. I don't really care, personally speaking, in terms of participating and playing ladder and playing tournaments, if the meta is a good meta or a bad meta. I don't really care if it's an Ionia meta or a Demacia meta or whatever sort of, you know, types of gameplay experiences you like. I like playing LoR pretty much no matter what. There are some decks I like more than other decks, but fundamentally, if there is, you know, in X given meta, I will find a way to enjoy it, right? Same, it went for Siren Song, it went for Azir Aurelia. There wasn't ever a meta where I was like, I can't enjoy playing this game. There have been metas that I've played less than other metas, but typically I would chalk that up to outside factors, right? Maybe Roma was here and I didn't play the game as much, or maybe I was busy with uni, I didn't play the game as much. But in general, you know, I don't really care what the meta is. I'm going to put the same amount of time in agnostic to the gameplay style. But it's not like what the new cards are is ignorable necessarily, right? Like the new gameplay experiences that new expansions provide do shake up the way that LoR looks as a product that you want to, you know, participate in, right? Like what Morgana and Mordekaiser do as powerful options is change the way that, you know, you feel as if when you're playing the game, right? Morgana tries to deal with tempo in a bit of a different way to other champions do. Mordekaiser acts like Nasus Volts in the same way that you can just sit there and when the enemy interacts with you, you still get value out of it somehow. That sort of thing. And Elder Dragon does change the way that you approach the deck builder quite a bit. But I think, like, in general, the new seasons and expansions have been really good. I've been really enjoying them. I think the format works well as something that's both consistently able to be produced and also fun. Earlier, a few days ago, Snooey did this tweet where he posted 4 of his favorite cards, and the idea was that this would be a copy pasta that all of us put our own 4 cards on. Not copy pasta, sorry, like chainmail. And I recently answered that, and I can quickly pull up what the cards I chose for that were. They were Morgana, Explorer's Blunder, Soul Harvest, and Adroit Artificer. I think Morgana is one of my favorite champions I've ever seen released. I really like everything about her. I like the power spike on turn 5. I like the surprise lethals you can get by leveling her up before you do an open attack. I think like Riven Morgana, even decks like Vayne Morgana are really, really fun with that. There are so many cool things you can do with Morgana that I don't think I'll ever get tired of her. I picked Explorer's Blunder. I really like, very specifically, Explorer's Blunder. I like the keyword removal aspect of Quicksand being able to be applied at focus speed, but also the turn before they attack. And the interactions that you can have with keywords, especially things like Deathless and Spell Shield and Overwhelm, I think do really interesting things for how that card comes about. And I really like that option, even when 2 healing is probably better, to go for Explorer's Blunder anyway. Give me a sec to drink water. I picked Soul Harvest. Shadow Isles gameplay is something that's appealed to me a lot over the past couple, like, year and a half or so, ever since Red Gwen going into Nora Vigar and Nora Heimer. And Soul Harvest sort of, like, exemplifies what I love about that card, and love about that sort of archetype, like the Shadow Isles control stuff. And Adroit Artificer, I've built so many Adroit Artificer decks that just play for, you know, the turn 5 Adroit, trying to buff up your Dame the Despoiler, and, like, you know, your Elegant Edge, and sometimes there are Freljord cards, sometimes there are Bilgewater cards that want to get buffed. I think this card's really cool. I did also put a honorable mentions little section, so I wanted to also say Dame the Despoiler, Falling Star, Royal Shimmering, Nilla, Defenders of the Sun Disc, and all 4 curse cards were really, really cool. But I think like the main reason I want to bring up is that I think it's fun as an exercise to go over the past year of expansions and just pick out the cards that you really, really liked. It's a cool way of sort of reflecting on the year and the decks that you enjoyed playing and the excitement you might have had from reveal seasons and so forth. I think there's a lot of cool stuff you can do by doing that little bit of reflection, right? I'm lucky that I've got a spreadsheet that shows me all the cards that were released this year because I spend way too much time on that spreadsheet. But I definitely enjoyed doing that experience. Obviously, the other new thing this year was the separation in the competitive tournament format, right? Instead of having seasonals, we had opens, and there's a lot of thoughts I had about that. I was actually going to make a very similar podcast-style video when that announcement was made, because there were a lot of interesting things I wanted to pull away from it. And I still think, and I held this position before the first open, I held it right after the first open, going into the second and third open. I still hold the position that I think I prefer seasonals. There's a lot of stuff that I liked about seasonals. I felt personally, as someone that hung around Discord voice chats and was, you know, consistently qualified for the seasonals after a certain period of time, or at least like for day ones, that it was very much a community experience. You check in on how your friends are doing, you know, at the end of every round, and everyone would start at the same time, and it was this sort of communal experience that you actively made sure you were all available for that 9 hours to be able to participate through everyone's story through. Obviously, with the new opens, it takes about 4.5 hours to go through it, and everyone does it at a different time. So you're either saying hi to them, and you're saying, you know, this is what I've done, and I'm excited to see what you do, or they've already finished it, and then you know their number, and then you're not. I mean, you're interested in them because they're your friend, but you're not consistently participating in their story because they already finished doing their open, right? I think that the new system does do a lot of things right? I am lucky that I am a uni student that doesn't need to worry about times, right? If you're someone that works very consistently and you need to make sure you've got your sleep schedule intact, and you know you can't be up on Monday mornings to play the opens, because I'm assuming you're Australian in this example, the new format is obviously better. If you have like, you know, plans for your Saturday, right? And yeah, I think for like Americans it's on Saturday, right? Or maybe you're like Margin Bay and you play like other card games. The fact that you can do this at any time during the day is a blessing, right? There's a lot of better opportunities for a lot of players to feel more comfortable doing their opens because it's not as much of a commitment for their day. But as a community event, right, I think what seasonals used to provide was really, really good. And at least from my perspective, as when I was playing, I preferred the seasonals. I do think the opens are possibly a better format. I think like the fact that it's more free and the fact that it's open to everyone. Like obviously I'm one of the people that's lucky because I got to participate in the seasonals consistently and I didn't have to like I am not the person to whom the new format allows participation in, right? If you're someone that wasn't able to make the old seasonals, maybe you didn't have enough time to grind ladder, or you just hated ladder, or you simply will like, you know, play a 1200 to 2000 or something, and you weren't able to make it into there, but you're able to play the new opens. That's really exciting, right? There's a lot of possibility for you to be able to play into the opens and have a good time with it. And so I know that like the opens are almost certainly a better format for adding participation into the tournament structure, and having more interest in competitive LoR, and it does give people the opportunity to be more flexible with their day at the cost of less fervor in those 9 hours that you're interested in following everyone, right? Following your friends, following Icardo, watching your stream, these sorts of things, right? In terms of the top cut, I do miss the fact that everyone got prizing from topping before. I understand that that can't be the case. It's not economically viable for, you know, having 3 tournaments in a season, and the fact that there's a lot more participants. But it does feel to me as if getting top 32, you know, during a seasonal was like a much bigger achievement than getting top 64 nowadays. And that sort of, the litmus test of saying, you know, I topped 3 seasonals feels a lot less cool in a post-seasonal world where it's opens. And I think like that sort of, it's less appealing and culturally significant, I feel like, within the LoR community to have topped many opens as opposed to topped many seasonals, I find. But in general, I feel as if after that, like, you know, the 64-32 split, everything else about the day 2 of the new opens is pretty good. I quite like that, you know, there's still as much excitement and fervor about the winners. You know, the fact that there's a tournament every month and it's a consistent structure means a lot of people have that sort of knowledge of when the next tournament's going to come around. Because, you know, if you remember last year, right, sometimes you would go multiple months without you know, tournaments. We wouldn't really know what when the next tournament looked like, what the sort of release schedule was. We had sort of vague ideas that it's around every, you know, 6 weeks, but it wasn't like super set in stone, and the dead weeks were often very confusing because like we knew that eventually we would be out of dead week period, but we didn't know when that looked like or what that looked like. So I think like there's a lot of things that the new structure does. I think that if I had a choice and the world was entirely made of Spidzes, I would still stick to the old seasonal structure, but you know, the new open structure's alright. Now, I have not done that great in opens. During seasonals, I started qualifying for seasonals during Bandle City Part 2, which I think my first seasonal should have been between worlds. And then the first time I top cut was A Curious Journey, and the second time I top cut was Forces from Beyond. I had A Curious Journey, I got top 32, that's the one that Prodigy won with Sundisk, and I top 8'd the Forces from Beyond, which is the one that I want to say it's the one that 4LW won and Cup came second. I lost a P-Tash in top 8. And that was the Kaisar seasonal. Yeah, 4LW beat Cup is mine that seasonal. That's right. And those were the only seasonals I ever top cut, right? I played in all the other ones. I sometimes got 7-2, or I sometimes got 6-3. Otherwise, I was just not really playing that season. I wasn't like scrimming or anything for it. During the opens, I have also top cut exactly twice. I think it was Heart of the Huntress World Qualifier Open and Heart of the Huntress Eternal Open. I think those were the two that I top cut. But that's about it. I didn't do a very good job with opens. In fact, I can open up my spreadsheet and see what my results were, but they weren't particularly strong or anything. A lot of the time, I didn't really care about practicing for them. And I think part of that is because there feels like there's less fervor into the tournaments, right? If I'm looking at my results for all of the tournaments that I played in, I got like... So during Gloria Navori, I wasn't invested in the first tournament, the Standard Open. I got 7-3 in the WQO. I got 9-2 and was waitlisted, but didn't make it into the first Eternal Open, and then I just didn't care about the second Eternal Open. For Heart of the Huntress, Roma was here, so I was just focusing on spending time with Roma. And then for the WQO, I got 9-1 and went top 32, and then in the Eternal Open, I got top 64 at 8-3. And Fate's Voyage Onward, I think I just didn't pay attention to most of the opens around that point. It just wasn't, I just wasn't interested in doing a lot of the scrimming necessary to do well in those sorts of tournaments. I think next year I am going to put a little bit more effort into actually trying to top cut consistently. We now have gone through a world season and we know sort of the vibes of how you get into worlds via playing the tournaments, right? If you top cut all 3 tournaments and do relatively okay in them, or if you top 2 the WQO, or you top 1 the first or the last one, you're probably making it into worlds. That's generally the vibe, right? And so with that knowledge in mind, you can definitely play around how much effort you want to put in, and I think that's quite a cool format. And I also have missed putting a lot of effort into tournaments, because I feel like besides, I think like the only one that I really paid a lot of attention to and did scrimming for this year was the WQO for Heart of the Huntress, right? Every other time I just sort of picked up 3 decks and saw what would happen, and most of the time it didn't happen because I wasn't putting in that much effort into the opens this year. Compared to seasonals, where I put effort into every single seasonal except the one where I was abroad, right? And I can see that based on my spreadsheet because I did like at least middling in all of the opens, right? Like in the opens that I paid attention to, I got at worst 6-3, right? I mean, that was the Darkened Saga Awakening, which was the Pantheon Fiora, you know, Ionia lead season. Anyway, the other tournaments that happened this year, obviously, are things like Aegis and CDS, right? I played in Aegis, I think, twice or thrice this year. My memory of Aegis gets a little bit hazy because I don't have a spreadsheet on it. But I think at the start of this year, I did the main Pirates, I want to say. And the main Pirates was good. I really enjoyed that experience. We didn't put a lot of effort into it, but it still felt fine. Then I was on Targon's Valley very technically, although I didn't play, and I told them that I wouldn't play until Top Cut because Roma was here. And then they didn't top cut when Roma left, and so I just didn't play for Targon's Valley. Then I aided PCP a little bit during the season before the Draft League. I was just helping them out with playing decks like Echo Jinx. And then we did like the Azir's Ascended Swain's Flock, the Draft League thing, which was very, very fun. We didn't do amazingly. We got to top cut, and then we just stopped scrimming and practicing, and then we came forth. And I think like that's a consistent pattern over the course of the year, right? Like I have a strong belief with, especially regarding LoR tournaments, that like you get in what you get out what you put in for like the tournament results, right? If you put in effort into scrimming, you'll do better than if you don't put effort into scrimming, right? And with the opens and with Aegis, I didn't put a lot of effort once we got into top cut, right? Main Pirates didn't put a lot of effort in post top cut, you know, Aziz Ascended didn't put a lot of effort in post top cut, and then we ended up not doing well after top cut, and the same goes for the opens, right? I didn't put a lot of effort into figuring out lineups or knowing my matchups, and then I would, you know, be first timing the matchups in the tournament, and then I wouldn't do very well and I'd lose, right? This is in comparison to CDS, which I did put a lot of effort in, right? CDS Season 1 started earlier this year, and that was a very, very good experience. I'm really glad that Pinkos invited me to that. And we ended up winning CDS Season 1, and a lot of that came to the amount of effort that Annie and I put into doing well into that tournament. Then we get into CDS Season 2, and I'm not doing as well because I'm putting less effort into it, right? I'm not trying as hard to be doing consistently well. I still want to put a little bit of effort into the finals, but I expect it's not going to be as much effort as I did into the last finals. But CDS both Season 1 and Season 2 have been absolutely phenomenal experiences, and I think they've been a great part of at least my experience of doing tournaments this year. Other tournaments that are like grassroots tournaments, I don't really participate in. I don't do the Mastering Runeterra Opens. I don't do the ABG tournaments. I don't do OLS. I don't do the other tournaments that go on. I don't do a lot of grassroots tournaments. I feel like when I want to do a tournament, I want it to be either like the CDS draft stuff. I want it to be a team-based thing, or I want it to be the Opens. So I don't participate in a lot of the grassroots stuff. We did do the Tron 5v5, although because I didn't play, and again, I didn't do a lot of scrimming, it wasn't a big part of what I felt like tournament-wise this year. But overall, I had a good time, right? Like, I'm talking, like, in the last 10 minutes, you've heard me say, this was cool, I didn't put a lot of effort into it. This was cool, I didn't put a lot of effort into it. Fundamentally, I still enjoyed my experience with tournaments this year, although next year, I think I want to put a little bit more effort into actually putting practice and scrimming into the games, like learning some decks that aren't just the decks that I'm messing around with on ladder. And I'm hoping I can carry that energy for me into next year. Because I'm excited for trying to like participate again and do well into top cuts, because I definitely feel like, you know, because I haven't put that much effort into LoR in the past year, my skill has sort of mellowed or gone down a little bit due to lack of practice, and I want to be doing well in LoR again. I want to be, you know, putting effort into things, and so I'm hoping I can try and improve on that a little bit next year. All right, that's everything I want to talk about regarding tournaments and this year and Worlds. I think the next thing I want to quickly talk about is like Spidz YouTube. Because Spidz YouTube has been a project of mine that I have wanted to try doing something on YouTube for like a long part of my life, right? As a terminally online young person, right, I spend a lot of my time just watching YouTube videos, and I think for a lot of people like that grew up with, you know, the internet in the way that like people born after 2000 did, the idea of doing stuff on the internet as a career aspiration or a recreational aspiration is sort of commonplace, in the same way that I think a lot of people consider being teachers just because when they're, you know, in school, it's the profession they hang around with the most, right? And to some extent, I've avoided putting a lot of effort into things like a Spidz YouTube because I've not had the greatest opinion of my voice and my body, right? And in the past couple of years, I have dealt with that quite a bit more, and I've been a lot more confident in these sorts of things. And so this is I've started working on Spidz YouTube in the past year and a half, and a lot of things have changed, right? At the start of the year, I wanted to give the, sort of end of last year as well, I wanted to give the experiment of doing a serialized gameplay thing, which was what Hades was, right? Of just recording one thing a day, uploading it, and I liked doing that as an experiment. It's not for me, unfortunately. I think there's a world in which I could try that again and give it a second shot, but when I'm making a Spidz YouTube, I want to feel proud with at least like the content or the logic or whatever that's in the video. Like, I want there to be a good piece of value that I feel like I can be proud putting out. And with Hades, while I don't think they were bad products, I just don't think they were that good or fun or enjoyable to consume. Well, I'd like to think with the VOD reviews, at least there's like the education value or the ideological analysis that you can get out of VOD reviewing your games that can still be grasped out and enjoyed. So I do like the VOD reviews, and that will be something that I hope to continue. There are a few notes with the VOD reviews. I think there's about 2 videos that I feel like I should, or maybe 4. There are 4 videos, I think, that I should have made and didn't, right? Week 8 of CDS Season 1, the finals of CDS Season 1, one of my Aegis games against MTuck, and I think the Aegis games against Grandpa Roji when I was on the main Pirates. And all of those were the final games of those tournament seasons, basically, right? Like, we lost to Roji and with the main Pirates, and then that was the end of us playing in the main Pirates, right? And then we lost to MTUC, and that's the reason that was the final game of that, right? I'm not going to say that I think the loss is the reason why I didn't upload them. I think it's because it's the end of the tournament structure, and so I feel like a lot of the interest in that sort of dies off, and my personal interest dies off. Like, it's hard for me to justify, you know, giving out a couple hours of doing the recording and giving out a couple hours to do the editing just to upload something that I have no interest in, right? It's sort of hard to get myself feeling emotional enough to be able to do that. But when it's something like CDS, I know that there's always the CDX coming up the next week, right? And it's the same thing with the Opens, right? Ages and ages ago, I used to make, you know, 3 or 4 videos based on the 9 games of the seasonals, right? And I haven't done that for the Opens. I worked on one project for quite a while, but by the time I was halfway done with it, it was like a week and a half after the Open was done, and we'd gone into a new competitive format, and it just, I had no interest in continuing working on that video, right? And what I've learned from that experience, at the very least, is that, like, for something like the Spidz YouTube or Spidz YouTube VOD reviews, there needs to be a really quick turnaround if it's based on a tournament, I think. I think, like, the longer that it being based on a tournament has, and if it's not got that quick enough turnaround, it does sort of falter, both in my enjoyment and my perceived enjoyment of other people's consumption of it. I don't think that, you know, at the end of the day, right, we're just talking about gameplay, and you're always going to be able to pull something out even if the video is, like, 2 years old or something. But it does feel a lot better when it does have relevancy, and my obvious point for that is, like, I don't watch a lot of LoR YouTube anymore, but, like, when I used to watch, you know, Margin Bay and Sir Termund a lot, there was pretty much never a reason to watch a Margin Bay or Sir Termund video from more than 2 weeks ago, let alone more than 1 week ago, let alone, you know, months or years ago, right? Once you're out of that meta, it's really hard to justify watching a video from, like, a while ago, unless it's, like, very specifically for a deck that you're, like, fascinated to try and learn. And even then, I feel like most people would rather just jump into ladder games if it's a deck that the most recent Margin Bay or Sir Termund was like a month ago or something, right? I think the same logic applies for Spidz YouTube VOD reviews, even though it's slightly a different format, right? But anyway, so I think, like, looking forward, right, when it comes to tournaments like the Opens or the or things like Aegis or CDS, when it comes to Aegis or CDS, I want to make sure that I'm getting the video for it out by, like, 2 days after the tournament happens, right? Especially with something like Aegis, because I think that's a good turnaround for something like that. When it comes to the Opens, I think in the past I've wanted to VOD review every single video from them, because the idea of selecting certain videos in my brain, and this is a silly thing to believe, but it's how my brain works. When it comes to things like the Opens, if I'm only picking 1 or 2 best of 3s, I feel like the sentence changes from I am making a VOD review of the games because I played in a tournament and tournaments are inherently interesting to VOD review over, to these games have some sort of very specific purpose I'm trying to articulate through, and it feels like it puts a lot more onus onto those games to which I'm VOD reviewing, and I think it, like, to me, it makes it seem as if I'm making a greater statement about the interest of those games, when in reality, a lot of those games are just only good in the sense that they are a decent tournament game, as opposed to some sort of mind-blowing massive game. And that's because, like, you know, maybe 1 in 100 tournament games are, like, the bee's knees of, like, expert analysis or expert gameplay, right? A lot of them are just, like, you're either enacting your game plan normally, right? And you've just got a good hand, they've got a good hand, your good hand is better than their good hand, you know, because of the matchup, and you win. Or it's something like, you know, I was trying to play to this out, so I did this play, right? And that's very common, right? That's interesting to analyze. But if you're going to pick out only 1 game of, like, 40 where you end up doing that, right, in your 9 best of 3s or whatever, so 27, putting more onus on what is this, on a very similar, you know, analysis structure doesn't appeal to me as much, or I don't know, ideologically I find it hard to justify that a lot of the time. But I want to figure out something for that, because I've got, you know, the games from the Opens, and they're, like, at least as interesting as the other stuff I VOD review, so I feel like there should be at least some level of stuff there, right, that I go through. But there's also different things I want to do on Spidz YouTube over the next year. I've started finally going over and recording my ladder games. I'm so used to just playing ladder whenever I want, and just not doing it, but like 1 in like 100 ladder games is like one of the, it's like a really cool game, and I'm kicking myself that I haven't recorded it, because I think there are probably ladder games that are more interesting to VOD review than like some of the CDS games or some of the like, you know, opens games or whatever, right? And I want to make sure I'm able to do some sort of VOD review on that if the game ends up being high enough quality to do that. And also seems like something that can really easily bang out, right? If it's a ladder game, it's going to be like, if it's a good game, it's probably 10 to 30 minutes. Right, and then if you want to do a VOD review of that, it's going to be a little bit quicker than the best of threes that a lot of the tournament series are on. So it seems like that'd be a great idea of trying to convert into something if it's good. But I also want to do some non-VOD review stuff. I've got a few things in the tank right now, and I've got a list of video ideas that I have been working on passively. Some of it isn't LOR related. There's a few games that I've been trying to make things on. It's not going to be like the Hades, you know, serialized thing. It's going to be like a proper experience and a highly edited thing that I can be proud of. But I will say in the future for Spidz YouTube, it's not just going to be VOD reviews, right? I think VOD reviews is something that I enjoy doing. But at least for next year, I've got a few goals on what I want to experiment with on Spidz YouTube in the same way that the Hades playthrough was an experiment on Spidz YouTube, but just what I, like, enjoy to do, right? At the end of the day, right, like, I want to use Spidz YouTube as a thing that I can have for creative fun, that I'm able to put a lot of, you know, interesting things in, either analyzing things in interesting ways or making, like, entertaining content. And I feel as if that I can try and experiment with that a little bit more other than just the VOD reviews. But I do like doing the VOD reviews. However, I think in general, Spidz YouTube has been a very big success this year. I think that's everything I want to talk about regarding Spidz YouTube. How long have I been recording this so far? Okay, 50 minutes. Interesting. The penultimate thing I want to do is quickly give a shout out to a couple of people. I've shouted out the Aegis crew and the casting crew, but I want to give them another shout again. Worlds was an amazing experience as one of the people doing the casting, and it was thanks to the amazing people that were working with us, right? They did an absolutely phenomenal job, and it was a very, very good time. I want to give a shout out to Greg and Aegis for giving me like the lending hand to help me do well into things like casting, right? If they didn't outreach to me, or if Greg didn't reach out to me and say, hey, do you want to cast the open? I don't think I would be as close to the position that I am in right now. And I want to give a massive thank you to Greg for that, as well as the Aegis crew for things like the opens. And also for Worlds, right? I want to give a shout out to some of the people like Pink Ghost and Sarah, like Captain Sarah, who have given me opportunities to do some really cool things in the community, such as, you know, being part of CDS and doing the daily discussion posts on Reddit. Same thing to Yang Zera for the Mastering Runeterra content creator video thing. I think, like, for me, where all of this like stuff is new, where I'm being outreached to do certain like creator things. It's so weird to think of myself as that. I feel very honored that I'm able to participate in these things that previously I've just been a consumer of. And I think it's just so cool to be able to participate in these things. I wanted to shout out a lot of the people that I've been hanging out with on discord.com, you know, the Fake Hero homies, the Tron homies, the RPG homies. There's a lot of cool people that I get to spend time with. Same with Duckpig, by the way. They invited me there, and that was a pretty cool experience. So there's a lot of people on Discord that are just great friends, right, that I want to shout out for just being cool people to hang out with, right? Same with the Cephalopod Discord as well. That one's goated. Yeah. There's so many people that I like to hang out with, even the PCP guys. So thank you for being cool friends, I guess. That's, I think, everything I wanted to put into this. To give like a summary of everything we've talked about so far, I think Worlds was a really, really good experience, and I'm really happy that I got to participate in it. I think LoR has done a really good job this year of doing a lot of things that are quite good, and while I'm personally a little bit sad that I like the old seasonal format, opens are good, and I think it's better for LoR as a product and as a game, right? I keep using words like product and consumer. That's not typically how I think about the world, but I've just used it for this video for some reason. I think a lot of the tournament stuff has been quite good, and I think Spidz YouTube has gone quite well, and I'm excited to continue doing it next year. Thank you all for listening to me talk for a long time about random stuff. I don't think like what I've been talking about is too deep or analytical, right? It's just me sort of rambling about a couple of things, but so be it, right? At the end of the day, it's Spidz YouTube. It doesn't really have to be the most insanely, you know, highly philosophical nonsense that I could be trying to spew out into the world. Okay. I've been excited to open this box for like a week. The box arrived during Worlds. It arrived during day 2 of Worlds, and because I had to do a lot of preparation for Worlds, right? I had to, you know, get clothes for it. I had to, you know, make sure that I was prepared for it. There was all this sort of technology stuff. I spent hours trying to work out the fucking technology for Worlds, and even then, it still didn't work perfectly, and you can tell by the broadcast that sometimes it didn't all work out in its entirety. But I got the package midway through Worlds. You know, I think you've seen other people in the LoR community get this, like Santupea and Rolly Attack and Sarah, at least. Other people that I know that have also gotten it, as well as a few friends of mine. And I've been excited to open it. It's on my desk. I've wanted to open it for so long, and because I got it during Worlds, I had to sleep during the day, so it was delivered while I was sleeping, and when I woke up, it was like, okay, I've got like 2 hours before I need to be on day 3 of broadcast, and so it's just been here, and I haven't had the time to actually go through it. So I'm so excited to go through this. Let me do one thing really, really quickly. I realize it's got personally identifying information on it, so let me quickly remove that temporarily. I'll be back in a second. Alright, I've gotten rid of the personally identifying information, like shipping label information. So, this is the box. I guess I should look at myself while I'm opening it so I can make sure everything's in frame. I'm very excited to go through this. I think I'm really thankful for, like, Miss Yeru, I think, who contacted me for this. This was very, very cool. And I'm so excited to go through it. Okay, so, first off, there's this, like, card thing. Thank you for... It looks like this. This is the card. I don't know how to do an unboxing video, by the way. I've never watched unboxing videos. I don't know how it's supposed to look. But, you know, everyone, at least everyone I know does, like, a Twitter thing. And I felt like, I don't care about Twitter. Twitter's not my social media of choice. I like YouTube a lot more, so I thought I'd put it here. Anyway, they've got this card thing. It's got the Mordekaiser art on it. And on the back it says... Thank you for being a valuable member of the Legends of Runeterra community and joining us for the 2023 World Championship celebration. Tag play Runeterra when you share your... Oh, fuck. It says on this thing that I'm supposed to tag Runeterra. I hadn't opened it yet. I didn't know I was supposed to tag play Runeterra and say hashtag LOR Worlds 2023. I hope you're okay with me not doing that. Because it's... oh, shit. I actually didn't know this was Worlds themed. I thought people were just tagging it for World stuff as like a... You know, this is the event. I didn't realize it was actually, like, requested of you to talk about it here. But anyway. Okay. So I know what's in this, by the way, because I've seen other people talk about it, but I've not actually had the experience of it myself, and this is so cool. Okay. So what they've got is there's this, like, bag that takes up the whole box. Is there stuff in the bag? Right, there's stuff in the bag. Okay. So there's this bag. That's the entire box, by the way. It's done. So there's this bag. It's mostly greenish gray. And it's got a bunch of LOR related things. So at the top it says Legends of Runeterra, which is the video game that I like. Just in case you're unfamiliar. And it's got a bunch of, like, zips and things like this. It's got a chip here. Because this is Spidz YouTube, I'm going to mention that I'm not a big fan of chip as an icon for Runeterra. I don't like the sort of, like, forced cuteness. But thank you nonetheless. And then there are things inside this to which I didn't realize that were packaged inside it. I thought it came separately. So I'm going to make sure that I check every nook and cranny to see that I don't miss anything. Anything in here? No. This is so fucking cool, by the way. Oh, that's right, there's a jacket. I just remembered there's a jacket. That's probably in the I guess it's like a backpack. Is it a backpack or like a knapsack? It's a backpack. It's got backpacky things. But I think you can also carry it like a sort of knapsack, like this, I think. Okay, so inside is this. This is the... Oh my god, Jesus. I forgot it would say my name. I saw my name and I got surprised. I just remembered that most of them say the person's name on it. Cool. It says it, like, when you open it, it says it right here on the thing. That's really exciting. Hold on. I'm gonna open it. Do I have scissors? Yes, I got scissors. This is very, very cool. Interesting fabric. Does it say what fabric it is? I can't identify it based on touch. It feels very comfy. Okay, it's 100% polyester. Okay. I'm presuming polyester has different types of what it can feel like, because I feel like I've worn polyester before. But okay. This is cool. So on the back, it's got the map of Runeterra, right? You can see Freljord highlighted here. On the front, it's got this, right? Piltover and Zorn and so forth. And I think I'm going to put it on to see how it feels. So let me do that. I'm gonna put it over what I'm currently wearing. I'm not gonna take this off. Did I pick the right size? I picked the right size. That's so cool. Oh my god. Okay. Is this the right size? When it's bent, it goes kind of over, but that's okay. God, this is cool. This feels amazing. Holy shit. And then it says my name on the back. Holy hell. That's so cool. Thank you so much for this. The people that contacted me for this. This is very, very cool. I did not expect to be able to get something like this. Like, you know, ask me at the start of the year after I've released, like, you know, just the Aegis VOD reviews, you know, and like one seasonal VOD review, if I'd be able to do something like this, and I would have never in a million years thought this would happen, right? Okay. From memory, there are other things in this as well. Oh, there's the socks. There's the Poro socks, the Poro King socks. Poro King socks. They look like socks. Will they fit on my feet? They will fit on my feet. Cool. All my socks are black. I should mention, like, all of my clothes are pretty much just, like, monocolor black. I really like the color black for clothes. And so these are going to be the only socks in my collection that aren't a monocolor black or white sock, but I'm gonna wear them with pride because they're the fucking Poro King socks. They're so cool. Okay, what else? There should be the playmat, right? What is this? Sorry. Oh, there's like, what are these, stickers? There's a sticker. One is for Legends of Runeterra. Hold on. Let me. They come in a Ziploc bag. Why am I explaining this to you? You can see, you've got eyes. Some of you do. Some of you might not. That's okay. Okay, so there are 3 stickers. One is this, like, R. One is this Poro King. And one is this Legends of Runeterra. I don't know what to do with stickers. I don't know if... Should I, like, put them on something? What sort of thing do you put a sticker on? Is it, like... I'm trying to think, like, where have I seen stickers in my life? And I've seen them on, like, school books. I could put this on, like, the front of my uni book, and people can be like, what's that? I could be like, wait till you hear about Legends of Runeterra. I don't know what to do with stickers. If someone has some advice on what to do with a sticker, let me know. I'm willing to use these stickers. I just don't know where. But thank you for the stickers. And then, finally, there is, like, the mousepad playmat thing, which I think a lot of people have been confused on how to use it properly, whether they should use it as a mousepad or as a playmat. It does feel like it feels like, to me, a mousepad. As someone that's never touched a playmat, it feels like a mousepad to me. But this is very cool. I mean, it's way larger than I thought it would be. Like, it is larger than my laptop. And it's larger than the space in front of my laptop where I would normally keep my mouse. But I might incorporate it into things. This is very, very cool. Oh, it says Ionia on the shoulder. Sorry, this is still the coolest thing to me. I really, really like this. I don't know how often I'm gonna wear it, because I don't know in what scenarios I'm gonna wear this. Am I gonna, like, go to uni one day in my Legends of Runeterra thing that says my name on the back? I don't know. I don't know the intended use case for this piece of clothing, but I'm very excited to have it. I think I might end up using the backpack often. My current backpack is good, but I would like having another backpack for other occasions, right? Like, I think that my backpack does some really good things. It's able to hold my laptop quite well. But this backpack has a lot of different sections that actually seem quite useful. And, hold on. Do I have the rubber band? I do have the rubber band. Let me quickly put this away. Where should I put this? I'll put it here. Okay. Oh, there's more things. Hold on. What is this? Oh, there's a pin. Hold on, hold on. There's a pin. I forgot about this. I think I've seen some people wear this, but I forgot this pin existed. It was in one of the in bits of the satchel. It wasn't in like the main bit of the satchel. An LoR pin. Holy hell. Pin. You can put it here. Now, instead of my name, you know how people have put their names on things, like, you know, if you're meeting new people, there'll be like a sticker that says, you know, Spidz. Now people can call me R. Why did I say that joke? I don't know the intended use case of a pin like this. Like, obviously it's a cool piece of advertising, and it's really shiny. But I don't know, like, you know, so I don't collect many things. I'm not really a collector individual. So for me, when I'm receiving stuff like this, I'm thinking, what sort of functional purpose can I have while being incredibly cool that it's also a piece of merchandise? I presume to some extent there is some sort of element of this should be like a collector's thing that you put in your wardrobe or put in a location that's just cool that you've got it, but it's not like a main thing that you use. But I don't know in what case I would use the pin, right? Maybe when I'm going to the cool LoR event, but I don't want to wear this, but I can still wear the pin and be like, hey, look, I've got the LoR pin. I don't know. Okay, anyway. What I wanted to talk about was that I do like how this satchel looks, and I think I could end up using this as a main piece of equipment for, like, my life, right? Like, you can pull all this around, and then you can hold it like this and carry it around. I don't know, does it work as a good over-the-shoulder bag? It kind of does. Maybe it works enough. I'd have to mess around with it a little bit more. Like, it does also have this little bit here that you pull over, right? That's the intended use, and you hold it up like this, or more likely use it as a backpack. I think it's very much intentionally used as a backpack, but I would like to have it also double up as an over-the-shoulder bag, which my current backpack can't ever do. It doesn't really have anything like this that you're able to use for that purpose. But this is very, very cool. I'm in a good mood. Thank you for this. So this is the sort of wrap-up of the year. A lot of cool things has happened to me this year, and I'm very, very excited for what next year has in stock. I think there's a lot of cool things that, like... Oh my god! Oh, I forgot about this. Sorry, I'm just looking at the jacket. If you look right here... sorry, I'm not very good with cameras. LoR mentioned. Holy shit. I want to make sure I'm in frame. LoR mentioned. This is so cool. This is by far the coolest thing that I got from this box, I think. But thank you all for watching this end of year recap. It's mostly just me pogging out about things that have happened this year, but a lot of cool things that are worth pogging out about happened. If you've got any questions about, you know, things that happened this year, things that I've got planned for next year, feel free to ask. I don't know if this was like an amazing piece of media to produce into the world, but I thought I'd try it, right? In the same way that I've tried the card review videos, I don't know if this sort of video is the sort of thing that I'm going to continue to do, but why not test it out and see how it feels? And then if I don't enjoy like how it feels after editing it, like there's a good chance during editing I cut this video entirely and I just have the thing where I do this. But yeah, thank you all for watching. If I get this done by tonight, that means this comes out on Christmas for Americans, so Merry Christmas. If I don't get it done by tonight, then too bad. Don't have a Merry Christmas, have a bad one. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you next time I make a Spidz YouTube. Bye.